If you're building a custom GPT, this video could save you hours of frustration. I built an AI tutor called Riley Response that's used by my college students every week. I thought once I finished building it, I'd be done. I wasn't. Over the last several months, I've learned 3 lessons the hard way that have completely changed how I build custom GPTs. Let me show you.
So this is my ChatGPT account, and you used to be able to find your GPTs over here in the side menu, but they're kind of hidden now. There is some rumor that GPTs are going to be going away. We're going to explore my custom GPT that I created for a textbook that I have written, and here it is right here. So this is Riley Response. I wrote a textbook for one of my college courses called Integrated Response, a field guide to modern public safety coordination. And I wanted students to have more than just a textbook. So I built Riley as a 24/7 AI tutor. So Riley isn't designed to write assignments or do work for them. I give very specific instructions to the students to guide them through how to use Riley, and its job is to help the students through every module, explain concepts from the textbook in plain English, and summarize the chapters. So let's take a look at what it can do. It's asking the student, do you want to start a module, which is part of their course? And then it's also saying, or do you want to ask a chapter or concept question? So let's just go ahead with module 1 and see what it's going to give the students. And you'll see here that module 1 contains chapters 1 and 2, and it gives them a link that goes to study materials. Once they read those chapters, watch a video, listen to a podcast episode, which they can find at this link, it's then going to ask them to come back and say done. And so now it's going to give them a quick summary of chapters 1 and 2, and then it's going to start those checkpoint questions. The students can answer the question. If they get the question wrong, it's going to give them a second chance to get it right. And I require my students to then take the answers to these checkpoint questions and put them into my LMS or my Canvas as a quiz grade. Building it actually wasn't that difficult. Making it work consistently has been a completely different story. Now I'm going to quickly show you the back end of Riley Response, which is how I set it up. I do a full video on how to create a custom GPT, and you can watch that video for specific instructions on how to create a custom GPT. I just wanted to quickly show you some of the main points so that later you'll understand what I'm talking about. These are the custom instructions where you tell Riley Response or the GPT how it should act. These are conversation starters, which are these over here where the student gets to see or can start their conversation by clicking on one of these boxes if they don't know how to start. And then when you look down here, these are my knowledge files. So I have a knowledge file for each one of my chapters of the book. I have a resource library. I have those module checkpoint questions as well as the answer key. This is a module map to tell Riley Response which chapters go to which module. And then this is more detailed response system instructions that tell Riley exactly how to act, when to act, and in exactly what order to act.
Here are the 3 biggest lessons I learned. My first mistake was thinking I was almost finished once the GPT worked. I wasn't. Building Riley took me a day or 2. Testing Riley has taken months. Every time I thought I had everything working perfectly, I'd find another issue Sometimes it would interpret an instruction differently than I expected. Sometimes I'd realize a response could be clearer. Sometimes a pesky OpenAI update would change how it worked completely. And what I realized eventually is building the GPT isn't the project, testing the GPT is the project. Every time I make a change, I test it again. Then I test it from a student's perspective. Then I test it again after making another change. So if you're building a custom GPT, expect testing to take far longer than the initial build. The second lesson completely changed how I organize my GPTs. At first, I treated my knowledge files kind of like a filing cabinet. I'd upload documents because they contained useful information, and I assumed the GPT would figure out what it needed to give the students a response, but it doesn't really work that way. Every knowledge file should have a clear job. I created files that contained only textbook chapters. I separated files for those checkpoint questions. I uploaded even more files for module-specific instructions. I included a resource library, and then I created another file that acts almost like a roadmap telling Riley where to find the information it needs for each module. I also found that converting many of my documents into Markdown files made by the GPT made the GPT much more consistent in retrieving information. Once I started organizing information this way, my responses became much more reliable, and instead of one giant collection of documents, Riley became a system where every file has a purpose. And that one change probably made a bigger difference than any prompt I wrote. Mistake number 3 is you're building a system, not just a prompt. And the third lesson is something I didn't appreciate when I started. You're not just writing prompts. You're designing an entire system. Custom GPTs currently allow up to 20 knowledge files. That sounds like plenty until you start adding textbook chapters, module instructions, checkpoint questions, resource libraries, assignment guidance, and everything else your GPT needs. I quickly realized I had to think strategically about what belonged in my custom instruction box and what belonged in knowledge files. I had to combine some files, reorganize others, and constantly ask myself whether information belonged in the GPT's instructions or somewhere else. The better organized the system became, the more reliable Riley became. At this point, I thought I had everything figured out. Then, this happened. This week, one student received only one checkpoint question. Another student received 3. The knowledge file clearly contains exactly 2 questions. The instructions clearly tell Riley to ask exactly 2 questions. So why is this happening? Honestly, I don't know yet. And that's exactly what we're going to figure out in the next video. Instead of pretending I already know the answer, I'm going to walk you through my actual debugging process. We'll look at the instructions, the knowledge files, the student responses, and I'll use AI to help debug the AI. Because if there's one thing I've learned from building Riley Response, it's this. You don't build a custom GPT once. You build it, test it, improve it, and then keep testing it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.